So you finish, you get a B plus. What year is this?
This was 1996.
And then now what? Where are you looking at going to university?
So we were waiting for placements, but I scored too low for architecture. Yeah, locally.
So by that you're talking about University of Nairobi.
JKUAT at the time was the main school for architecture.
A B plus was too low
at the time. Yeah.
Wow.
I didn't make the cut
despite the fact that you had an A in
drawing and design, but I performed poorly. So on average, I scored a B plus. There were subjects I scored Ds.
Yeah.
Physics, for instance, which was a critical subject for architecture.
I get.
So I scored a D plus in physics. My worst subject in terms of grades. And that's funny to me because of what happened later in college. but yeah, I didn't make it. But you wait almost a year to find out where you're getting placed. In those days, after you finish high school, you have sort of 1 year before your assignments are given in terms of what university you made it into. Right, so during that year I did the usual thing. I took computer classes, Microsoft Word, got certificates and Excel and blah blah blah.
Driving school.
I got my license before the end of that year, 1997 February I think is when I got my DL. So I became my parents' chauffeur immediately. Back then folks wouldn't let you just sit in the house idle. You had to do something.
Yep.
If you don't want to be in school, go to the shamba, go here, go there, run errands. And then at some point I became an operations manager for my mom's newly formed clearing and forwarding company. She finally left employment and started her own logistics company called Destiny Cargo Handling. And I was her chauffeur. I was her typist.
You were the delivery boy?
Yeah, I was everything. So I made her give me a formal title. She paid me 7,000 bobs a month.
Nice.
And made me a business card that says operations manager.
Your first job.
My first job, yeah. So that's what I did for most of that gap period.
Which, let me say, is wonderful, because that gap period can destroy people's destiny or delay people's destiny. Some of the choices that you can make within that gap here is where drugs come in, is where alcohol is, introduction to alcohol comes in, it's where sexuality comes in. So using that gap here, the devil's mind, an idle mind is the devil's workshop. Using the way you use that gap year, do you honestly feel like it helped you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I learned things about business, dealing with government.
Oh, nice.
Clearing and forwarding. Nuts, man. It was baptism by fire. I was learning a lot, and I always had a streak for entrepreneurship. Even when I didn't really understand what it was, because during that same period of time, a good friend of mine, used to be my best friend at the time, a guy called Brian Muredi, also ex-Alliance. We met at the Alliance High School, and like myself, he also joined after everyone else. I think he came from Strath or something like that. Brian Muredi had an aunt who would import products from the US and would sell them locally. And one day he says to me, "Hey, listen, man, I'm selling these perfumes, colognes, these high-end colognes, Fahrenheit, Cool Waters, name them. My aunt gives them to me on consignment, so she lets me have as many as I want. I flog them. They used to go for 2,500 bob a piece. And she said, just get me 2,500. I'll give you a 300 bob commission on each one. If you sell over and above the 2.5, whatever that is, that's yours.
Keep it, yeah.
But bring me my 2.5. And so, I thought that was interesting, because like every guy my age at the time, it was important that you smelled good. So I wanted access to good quality cologne for cheap, because normally they would retail for like 5-6K, and yet she was offering them for us to sell at 2.5. You know, so I saw immediately an opportunity to make money.
Yep.
And
because when you sell them at 4, you're still selling below market price and making a 1.5 profit.
Easy. There was one, Cool Waters used to sell for like 6K. I used to sell it for 5.
Ooh.
And my dad was my biggest customer. He'd buy like five of them at the same time. Cousins, friends, you know. I go to parties and nyama chomas on weekends. I'd always have my bag of cologne.
Yeah.
Eventually, guys started to know, oh, if you want cologne, call Solo. So I mean, I was making 100% margin, because we're giving Brian's aunt, you know.
Yeah. So you weren't
2.5.
splitting with Brian?
No, Brian
even him, you're selling on his own.
Yeah, Brian.
So
also
Brian just
on
gave
his
you
own.
access to.
Yes, he gave me the hookup to his aunt's Connect. And basically what she used to do, she would buy them as rejects from the US, factory rejects. You know, there's a small defect in the packaging, this, that, or the other, and she'd get them for dirt cheap and then sell them here. And that created the opportunity. And I saved quite a bit of money. Back then, I remember every time I got to, I forget what the exchange was, I think it was like 65 shillings to the dollar or something. Every time I had 7K saved up, I would go buy $100.
What?
Yeah, $100. I used to save in dollars and stack them in my drawer. And you know, I was head over heels in love with this girl I had met while still in high school, called Dorothy.
I like how you haven't given us a second name, which is okay. Okay.
Yeah, Dorothy Shikumo was her name, and she had just left for school in Cape Town. And I was sick, man. I was like, I have to see that Chile. I'm gonna marry that girl. I used to tell my parents, and they look at me like I was crazy. Throw with this kid, like, get serious with life. And I remember asking them, I want to go visit Dorothy in Cape Town. Mind you, I've never left Kenya my whole life. And I'm asking them to buy me a ticket to go to Cape Town. They look at me like, what's this kid been smoking? Like, are you crazy? I almost got backhanded. And I was like, sour. So I'd save. So one day I had enough to buy a return ticket to Cape Town. Sorry, it was Pretoria. Because she was going to be on holiday from Cape Town, so she was staying with relatives. And I went and bought my ticket, and I got home and I slapped the ticket on the coffee table, and I said, I'm leaving for Pretoria next Tuesday. And they were in shock. Like, what do you mean? Who gave you the ticket? What's going on? I was like, I told you guys I want to go visit Dorothy, so I saved. I've been selling perfumes. It's my own money. My mom was pissed. I don't even remember what she said. My dad was interestingly quiet. And he dropped me off to the airport and gave me a ton of cash as pocket money. I think he was secretly proud of me. And so that's how I left Kenya for the first time.
No way! So you went?
Went to visit my girlfriend. And I convinced my mom, I brought her over to my side and convinced her, you know, I can go buy you a computer for the office because you desperately need one. You can't be using typewriters in this day and age. So, you know, we made it an office shopping visit as well. So that's how I left Kenya for the first time. And that's really when my entrepreneurial muscles started getting built. Yeah.
Okay, dude, I have so many questions about this period, even before you go to university.
Yeah.
So first and foremost, when you're selling sales is a skill. For you to like, this is the first time you're in sales.
Yeah.
This is not working for your mom where there's already buyers for the products. You're literally just in logistics, ensuring that the clearing happens and the delivery to the right
technical
person.
Stuff.
Yeah. So this is now, what did you learn that you still apply from that time? Selling perfumes means you talk to strangers. It means, just explain to me about your sales.
Yeah, I mean,
genesis.
At the time, honestly, I hardly ever dealt with strangers, really. I only sold to people that were known to me, or people who had a pre-existing relationship with me. At most, they were friends of my friends. So it was still a warm lead, it wasn't a cold engagement. But I learned how to negotiate. I learned how to manage my stock. I learned how to save. Yeah, I mean, I was living in my parents' home still. I had zero expenses. My dad was very generous with pocket money. I never wanted for anything. In fact, there was a period of time both my sisters and I would reject money from my dad because he just, here's your pocket money for this week, and be like, Dad, you gave us so much last week, we haven't even spent it. You keep it.
Chad, were you so behaved?
Yeah. So, I learned how to save. And buying that first ticket, for me to be able to say my first trip out of Kenya, my first flight was a ticket I bought on my own. That did all sorts of things to me on the inside I can't even describe. And I think it's important for every human being to have that opportunity. So I learned a lot during that process.
What?
Yeah.
And then SA, how long were you in SA for?
I was in SA for about a week and a half or so, which had its own drama because my girlfriend's parents wanted me to have nothing to do with their daughter. And in my foolish enthusiasm, my naive enthusiasm, when my parents finally felt okay about me going, since I had the ticket anyway, I went and told, I remember I sent Dorothy's sister to go and tell the parents, I'm going to SA. If you want to send me with anything for Dorothy, I'm happy to transport with me.
So nice and naive.
The drama, my God. I was threatened with arrest as soon as I got to the airport. And it wasn't empty threats. She was, the relatives she was living with were the personal assistant to the Kenyan ambassador in South Africa. So, it wasn't an empty threat. They had the wherewithal and the means to make good on that threat. And I was so depressed. And I remember walking back home. I actually got summoned to Dorothy's house. I'm not even sure she knows this story. I got summoned. I was told, Edith was her name, Dorothy's younger sister, came home and said, I told my parents, they want you to come over this evening. So I figured, great, I'm gonna go collect whatever the
packages.
I know. So I get there, and I walked into the living room, and there was Dorothy's father and mother who knew me. I mean, I was always at the house. In fact, the reason I knew Dorothy is because one of her older cousins was dating one of my older cousins. And they had a child together. So the families were not strangers to each other.
Yep.
And there were her parents and I think 2 or 3 of her aunties. Mom, I think her mom's sisters, if my memory serves me right. And I remember I knew things were thick when I said hello to everyone in the living room and the door was locked behind me. And someone put the key in their pocket.
Yo.
I was like, what is going on here?